The meeting room on Nexus Prime was huge. It had seats for representatives from 47 different alien species. The room was filled with strange creatures from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant crystals that walked on legs. Others had tentacles instead of arms. Some were just floating balls of energy contained in special boxes. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center of the room. He was from the Hellion Empire and looked like a walking diamond. Light bounced off his crystal body as he moved. His voice was deep and commanding when he spoke to the other aliens. "We are here today to discuss the newest species that wants to join our council," Zethkar said. "They call themselves humans. They come from a small blue planet in what they call the Orion arm of their galaxy." Many of the aliens made sounds that could only be described as laughter. It was not pleasant laughter. It was the kind of laugh that bullies make when they see someone weaker than them. "Commander." Vexala from the Corvin Syndicate waved her tentacles in the air. She was purple and had 8 long arms that moved like snakes. Her voice was high and squeaky. "Humans," she said with a sneer. "What a funny name. These creatures think they can join us just because they learned how to fly between stars. Have only been doing this for a few decades. We've been traveling space for thousands of years." The other aliens nodded in agreement. They had all seen the reports about humans. The reports said that human technology was very basic. Their spaceships used simple fusion engines. Their computers were slow. Their weapons were weak. An alien that looked like a giant jellyfish floated near the ceiling. It spoke without moving any mouth because it did not have one. Its voice came from speakers around the room. "I have studied their largest warships," the jellyfish alien said. "Their biggest ship is only 2 kilometers long. My personal yacht is bigger than that. How can they think they belong with us?" More laughter filled the room. Some aliens made clicking sounds with their claws. Others flashed different colors to show they thought this was funny. Zethkar raised one of his crystal arms to get everyone's attention. "The humans have asked us to let them join our council. They want to be treated as equals. They want to trade with us and share our technology." A robot-like alien stood up, was made of metal and had red eyes that glowed. "What do they have that we could possibly want? Their technology is primitive. Their science is basic. They have nothing to offer us." Commander Vexala waved her tentacles again. "I say we should teach them a lesson. Show them where they really belong in the galaxy.
Oh.
Maybe then they will understand that they are not ready to sit with the big powers." Floating energy, being from the ethereal collective, pulsed brighter. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music mixed with thunder. "I agree," the energy being said. "These humans need to learn respect. They should understand that there are levels to galactic civilization. They are at the bottom. We are at the top." Zethkar's crystal body reflected the lights in the room. As he thought, he had been dealing with new species for over 300 years. Most of them were easy to handle. They would see the power of the established civilizations and quickly agree to become junior members. They would accept small roles and be grateful for any scraps of technology they were given. But something about the humans seemed different. Their messages to the council had been polite but firm. They had not begged or pleaded. They had simply stated that they wanted to join as equals. This kind of confidence from such a primitive species was unusual. "What do you suggest we do?" Zethkar asked the room. Commander Vexala's tentacles curled with pleasure. "We challenge them to prove themselves. Ask them to show us their military power. When they fail, they will have to accept whatever terms we give them." The ideas spread. Through the room like fire, aliens began talking excitedly to each other in dozens of different languages. The sounds mixed together into a chaos of clicks, hums, squeaks, electronic beeps. A tall alien that looked like a walking tree raised one of its branch-like arms. "We could send 3 of our training fleets. Nothing too powerful. It's just enough to show them the difference between their technology and ours." The robot alien's red eyes glowed brighter. "Yes. We use ships that are not even our best. Old models that we use to train new pilots. Even those will be more than enough to handle anything the humans can bring." Zethkar considered this idea. It would be a good lesson for the humans. Would see real galactic military power and understand that they were not ready to be equals. After they lost, They would accept whatever small role the council offered them. Very well, Zethkar announced. We'll send a message to the humans. We will challenge them to a military demonstration. 3 fleets against whatever they can bring. If they win, they get full membership. If they lose, they wait 100 years before they can ask again. The room erupted in sounds of approval. This would be entertaining. The established species loved watching primitive civilizations learn their place in the galaxy. Meanwhile, at a human space station called Sentinel Alpha, Admiral Jake Morrison was reading the message from the Galactic Council. He was an older man with gray hair and many lines on his face from years of military service. He had fought in several wars on Earth and had helped plan humanity's expansion into space. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood next to him. She was younger than Morrison, but had already earned a reputation as one of humanity's best military minds. Dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her brown eyes were sharp and intelligent. "Sir," Rodriguez said, "they are clearly trying to humiliate us. 3 fleets against 1 human ship. They think this will be easy." Morrison set down the message and looked out the window of his office. He could see stars in the distance and several human ships moving between them. These ships looked small and simple compared to what the aliens described in their reports. But Morrison knew something the aliens did not. Lisa Morrison said with a small smile. "Do you remember what we told the council about our military capabilities?" Rodriguez thought for a moment. "We gave them basic information about our standard fleet vessels, fusion-powered ships, conventional weapons, normal crew sizes." "Exactly," Morrison said. "We told them about our regular fleet. We never mentioned Project Titan." Rodriguez's eyes widened. She had heard rumors about Project Titan, but the project was so classified that only a few dozen people in all of humanity knew the details. "Sir, are you saying what I think you are saying?" Morrison's smile grew wider. "The aliens want to see what humanity can do in a fight. They want us to prove ourselves. I think it is time we showed them what we have been building in secret." He pressed a button on his desk. Communication screen activated, showing a secure channel that connected to the most classified facility in human space. "This is Admiral Morrison," he said into the screen. "Authorization code, Alpha 77 Tango. I need to speak with Captain Collins immediately." The screen flickered, and then showed the face of a man in a military uniform. Captain Frank Collins looked like he was in his 40s, with short brown hair and steady blue eyes. Behind him, Rodriguez could see what looked like the bridge of a very large ship. Admiral Collins said, "I was wondering when you would call. We have been monitoring the galactic communications. I assume this is about the Council's challenge?" Morrison nodded. "Frank, it is time to wake up the Colossus. How soon can you be ready for combat operations?" Collins checked something off screen, then looked back at Morrison. "We can be ready in 6 hours, sir. The crew has been training for this moment for 3 years. We are as ready as we will ever be." "Excellent," Morrison said. "You have your orders, Captain. Show the galaxy what humanity is capable of." The communication ended, and Morrison turned back to Rodriguez. Her face showed a mixture of excitement and concern. "Sir," she said, "are we really going to reveal our most advanced technology to prove a point?" Morrison walked to the window again and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were preparing to teach humanity a lesson about galactic politics. They expected to find primitive humans with basic weapons and simple ships. They were about to discover that. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for much longer than anyone suspected. The Titan shipyard was hidden in the empty space between Jupiter and its moons. No normal person knew it existed. Even most people in the human military had never heard of it. The shipyard was so secret that it did not appear on any official records. As far as most humans knew, this part of space was completely empty. But it was not empty. Something massive floated in the darkness, something that would change everything. The USS Colossus was 15 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide. To understand how big this was, imagine laying 15 of Earth's tallest buildings end to end, and imagine making them 5 times wider. The ship was so large that small shuttles looked like insects flying around it, Captain. Frank Collins stood on the bridge of this giant ship. He was a calm man who had spent 20 years in the human space fleet. He had commanded many ships before, but nothing like the Colossus. This ship was not just bigger than other human ships, it was completely different. The bridge of the Colossus was unlike anything built before. Instead of having separate control stations, the entire bridge was connected by a smart computer system called Atlas. This computer could think and learn like a human. It was much faster and smarter. Atlas Collins said to the air around him, "Begin startup sequence." A voice answered him. It sounded human, but with a slight electronic tone. "Good morning, Captain Collins. Beginning startup sequence now. All systems coming online." Round Collins, his crew of 8,000 people began their work. Each person had trained for years to operate this ship. They had practiced in secret, learning to use technology that was far beyond anything the rest of humanity had ever seen. Lieutenant Commander Amy Price sat at the main control station. She was a small woman with red hair and green eyes. Her job was to make sure all the ship's systems worked together properly. She had been one of the first people chosen for the Colossus project because she was the best systems officer in the human fleet. "Captain," Price said, "all primary systems are showing normal readings. The quantum drives are starting up. Power levels are rising to normal operating capacity." Collins nodded. The quantum drives were what made the Colossus special. Other human ships used fusion engines, which were powerful but still based on old technology. The Colossus used something completely different. It created tiny black holes and used their energy to power the ship, deep in the engineering section of the ship. Chief Engineer Pete Walker watched the power systems come to life. Walker was an older man who had helped design the Colossus. He understood the ship's engines better than anyone else alive. The main engine room was enormous. It had to be because the engines themselves were unlike anything ever built. Instead of burning fuel or splitting atoms, the Colossus engines created controlled microsingularities. These were tiny black holes that existed for only a few seconds before disappearing. But in those few seconds, they released more energy than most stars produced in a year. "Engineering to bridge," Walker said into his communication device. "All power systems are stable. We are generating enough energy to supply a small planet. Everything looks good down here." Back on the bridge, Tactical Officer Danny Brooks was watching his screens carefully. Brooks was responsible for the ship's weapons and defensive systems. He was a young man, but he had been chosen for this job because he was the best weapons officer in the human military. Captain Brooks said, "Long-range sensors are detecting the alien fleets, are moving toward the combat zone that the Galactic Council selected. I count 3 separate groups of ships. Total enemy vessels, 153. Collins looked at the tactical display. The 3 alien fleets were impressive by normal standards. Each fleet had ships that were 3 to 4 kilometers long. Their weapons could destroy entire cities. Their shields could stop most known attacks. Any normal human fleet would be completely outmatched. But the Colossus was not a normal human ship," Atlas Collins said. "Analyze the enemy fleets." "What are we facing?" The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. "Analyzing now, Captain. Fleet 1 is from the Hellion Empire, 47 ships total, led by a Lance-class dreadnought called the Stellar Sovereign. These ships use focused energy weapons that can cut through most known materials." The tactical display showed the first alien fleet. Their ships looked like giant crystals with weapon ports along their sides. They moved in perfect formation, showing the discipline of a military force that had conquered dozens of worlds. "Fleet 2 belongs to the Corvin Syndicate," Axe continued. 56 ships total, led by a phase-shift cruiser called the Quantum Phantom. These ships can partially shift out of normal space-time to avoid enemy attacks while still being able to fire their own weapons. The second fleet looked completely different from the first. The Corvin ships seemed to flicker in and out of existence, making them hard to target. They were painted in dark colors that made them nearly invisible against the background of space. "Fleet 3 is from the Ethereal Collective," Atlas finished. 50 ships total, all crystalline vessels that channel psychic energy into devastating mental attacks. They can overload enemy computer systems and drive enemy crews insane. The third fleet was perhaps the strangest. Their ships looked like giant floating crystals that pulsed with inner light. They moved silently through space, and sensors had difficulty getting clear readings on them. Collins studied the information on his screen. These three fleets represented some of the most powerful military forces in the known galaxy. Each fleet had conquered entire star systems. Together, they had enough firepower to destroy hundreds of worlds. Atlas Collins asked, "What is your tactical assessment?" The artificial intelligence paused for exactly 0.3 seconds before responding. Combined enemy firepower is equivalent to approximately 15% of our defensive capabilities, Captain. Threat level assessment: minimal. Lieutenant Commander Price looked up from her station with surprise. 15%? Are you sure about that calculation, Atlas? Affirmative, Commander Price. The enemy fleets are using technology that is advanced by galactic standards, but primitive compared to our capabilities. Their most powerful weapons would have difficulty penetrating our outer hull plating. Collins allowed himself a small smile. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitive humans who had barely learned to travel between stars. They had no idea what humanity had actually been building in secret. Chief Engineer Walker's voice came over the communication system. "Captain, we are at full power. All systems are operating at optimal efficiency. We are ready for whatever you need us to do." Brooks looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, the enemy fleets have reached the designated combat zone. They have formed a standard attack formation and are waiting for us to arrive." Collins walked to the center of the bridge. Round him, his crew worked quietly and efficiently. They had trained for this moment for years. They knew that the next few hours would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. "Ladies and gentlemen," Collins announced to his crew, "today we show the Galactic Council what humanity is really capable of. We have spent decades preparing for this moment. We have built the most advanced warship in known space. Now, it is time to use it." He turned to face the main screen, which showed the three alien fleets waiting in the distance. They looked confident and ready for what they thought would be an easy victory against primitive humans. "Atlas," Collins said, "begin jump sequence to Combat Zone Alpha 7. The space around the Colossus began to change. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as the ship's quantum drives reached full power. Unlike other ships that slowly accelerated to faster-than-light speeds, the Colossus could move instantly, from one place to another, by folding space-time around itself. "Jump sequence initiated," Atlas announced. "Destination: Combat Zone Alpha 7. Arrival time: 30 seconds. Looked around his bridge one last time. His crew was ready. His ship was ready. Humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. "All hands, prepare for combat operations," Collins announced over the ship's communication system. We were about to make history. The USS Colossus disappeared from normal space-time, leaving only a brief ripple in the fabric of reality. Seconds, it would arrive at the combat zone and show the galaxy something it had never seen before. The age of human expansion was about to begin. Across the galaxy, billions of alien beings were getting ready to watch what they expected to be the end of human arrogance. Every major news network was preparing special broadcasts. Aliens on thousands of different worlds were gathering around their viewing screens with excitement. The Galactic News Network had set up cameras and sensors throughout the combat zone. Their main broadcasting station was located on a neutral moon, where representatives from many species could watch safely. The network's most famous reporters were there to cover what they called the human lesson. The main host was a creature called Obstel from the observant cast. Obstel had 12 eyes arranged in a circle around his round head. Each eye could see different types of light and energy. This made him perfect for describing space battles to viewers across the galaxy. "Good cycle to all our viewers," Obstel announced in the universal language used for galactic broadcasts. "Today we witness what our experts believe will be a very short demonstration. The primitive humans have accepted a challenge from 3 of our most respected military forces." Next to Obstel sat Professor Zixandra, a famous military expert. From the academic union, she looked like a large insect with 4 arms and golden wings. She had studied galactic warfare for over 200 years and had written many books about military strategy. "The outcome of this engagement is quite predictable," Professor Zixandra said with confidence. The humans will arrive with their largest ship, which our intelligence reports indicate is approximately 2 kilometers in length. Against 3 full battle fleets, they will be completely overwhelmed within minutes. In the combat zone itself, the 3 alien fleets waited in perfect formation. They had arranged themselves in a triangle pattern with each fleet covering one side. This formation would prevent the human ship from escaping once the battle began. Admiral L. Kethmer commanded the Hellion Empire fleet from his flagship, the Stellar Sovereign. The ship was 3 kilometers long and covered with crystal armor that could deflect most energy weapons. Its main weapon was a lance cannon that could cut through. Planet Kethmer was an old warrior who had fought in dozens of battles. He had conquered 7 star systems for the Hellion Empire and had never lost a major engagement. His crystal body glowed with confidence as he prepared to face the humans. "All ships report ready status," announced his tactical officer. "Energy. Lances are charged to full power. Defensive screens are active. We are prepared for immediate combat." Kethmer nodded with satisfaction. His 47 ships were among the most advanced in the galaxy. Each one was equipped with weapons that could destroy entire cities. Together, they formed a force that few enemies could resist. Commander Rixana led the Corvin Syndicate fleet from her vessel, the Quantum Phantom. Her ship was designed for stealth and surprise attacks. It could shift partially out of normal space, making it nearly impossible to hit while still allowing it to fire on enemies. Rixana was younger than Admiral Kethmer, but she was considered one of the best tactical minds in the galaxy. Her purple skin changed color slightly when she was thinking hard, and right now it was shifting between different shades as she planned her attack strategy. "Phase shift generators are operating normally," reported her chief engineer. "All ships in the fleet can transition to combat phase on your command. The humans will not be able to target us effectively." The third fleet belonged to the Ethereal Collective, and it was perhaps the strangest of the 3. Their ships were made of living crystal that could channel the mental energy of their crews. The ethereal beings did not have physical bodies. Like other species, they were pure consciousness contained within energy fields. The ethereal fleet commander did not have a name in the way other species understood names. It was simply known as the 9th harmonic of the 3rd resonance. When it communicated, its thoughts were translated into words that other species could understand. "Mental barriers are in place," the 9th harmonic announced to its fleet. "Psychic lances are prepared. We are ready to demonstrate the power of unified consciousness against primitive minds." Back on the Galactic News Network, the excitement was building. Camera drones were positioned throughout the combat zone to capture every moment of the expected battle. Betting pools had been set up on many worlds, with odds heavily favoring the 3 alien fleets. "Our sensors indicate that the human vessel should arrive at any moment," Obstel announced to his viewers. "Based on standard, faster-than-light travel times, they should emerge from hyperspace within the next few minutes." Professor Zixandra was checking her notes and calculations. "According to our analysis, the engagement should last between 4 and 6 minutes. The humans will likely attempt to surrender once they realize how outmatched they are. But military protocol requires that they be allowed to demonstrate their full capabilities first." On worlds throughout the galaxy, aliens were making jokes about human stupidity. In bars and entertainment centers, beings were laughing about how the humans thought they could challenge established galactic powers with primitive technology, but not everyone was laughing. In the deep archives of the Eternal Library, an ancient being called the Keeper was reviewing old records about species that had surprised the galaxy before. The Keeper had lived for thousands of years and had seen many civilizations rise and fall. The Keeper's 6 tentacles moved quickly through holographic displays showing historical data. Something about the human situation reminded the Keeper of other events from the distant past. Young species that had seemed primitive but had hidden capabilities that shocked older civilizations. "Interesting," the Keeper muttered to itself. "Very interesting indeed." In the combat zone, the 3 fleet commanders were receiving final reports from their ships. All weapons were ready. All defenses were active. All crews were prepared for what they expected to be a quick and easy victory. Admiral Wool Kethmer activated his communication system to speak with the other fleet commanders. "This is Admiral Kethmer of the Hellion Empire. Are both fleets ready to begin the demonstration?" Commander Rixana responded immediately. "Corvin Syndicate fleet reports full readiness. All phase shift systems are operational. The ninth harmonics." Response came as a wave of mental energy that was translated into words. "The ethereal collective stands ready to show these primitives the power of evolved consciousness." The three commanders had fought together before in joint operations. They had developed effective strategies for combining their different technologies. The Hellion energy weapons would break through enemy defenses. The Corvin phase shift attacks would confuse and disorient the enemy. The ethereal psychic weapons would overwhelm enemy minds and computer systems. "Sensors detect a hyperspace disturbance," announced the Halion tactical officer. "The human vessel is approaching the combat zone." Admiral Kethmer activated his fleet-wide communication system. "All ships prepare for combat. Remember, this is supposed to be a demonstration, not a massacre. We will disable their ship quickly and efficiently." Commander Rixana gave similar orders to her fleet. "Phase shift to combat configuration. Target their engines and weapons systems. We want to end this quickly." The ninth harmonic sent mental instructions to the ethereal ships. "Prepare psychic lances. Let's focus on their command systems. So once we disrupt their leadership, they will surrender immediately." Throughout the galaxy, billions of viewers leaned forward in anticipation. The moment they had been waiting for was about to begin. The humans were about to learn their place in the cosmic order. On the Galactic News Network, Stell's 12 eyes were focused on the sensor displays. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all configurations, the human vessel is about to arrive. Prepare to witness the fastest military engagement in galactic history." Professor Zixandra was making final notes for her post-battle analysis. She had already prepared a lecture about the importance of understanding one's limitations in galactic politics. Then space began to tear open at the designated arrival point. Reality twisted and bent as something massive prepared to emerge from hyperspace. The three alien fleets adjusted their formations slightly, preparing to face whatever primitive human ship appeared. But as the hyperspace portal grew larger and larger, some of the alien sensor operators began to look confused. The energy readings they were seeing did not match what they expected from a small human vessel. "Admiral," called the Hellion tactical officer, his voice showing the first hint of uncertainty. "The hyperspace disturbance is much larger than predicted. The energy signature is ... unusual." Commander Rixana was receiving similar reports from her ships. "Something is not right," she muttered. "The readings do not match our intelligence reports about human technology." The ninth harmonic suddenly recoiled as its consciousness touched something vast and alien in the quantum foam of approaching hyperspace. The mental contact lasted only a fraction of a second, but it was enough to send shockwaves through the ethereal fleet. "Warning, the ninth harmonic broadcast on all frequencies." Its mental voice showing something that sounded almost like fear. "Something approaches that does not match our expectations. All fleets should prepare for the unexpected." Then reality split open completely, and the USS Colossus emerged into normal space-time. The silence ended when every communication channel in the combat zone exploded with activity. Alien voices in dozens of different languages began shouting orders, asking questions, and demanding explanations. The three fleets that had been so confident just moments before were now struggling to understand what they were seeing. The USS Colossus hung in space like a metal mountain. It was so large that the alien ships looked like toys floating around it. The ship's hull was not smooth, like normal vessels. Instead, it seemed to flow and shift like liquid metal. Strange patterns covered its surface, and these patterns moved and changed as the aliens watched. Thousands of weapon ports dotted the ship's hull. Each port was larger than most alien fighter craft. Sensor arrays extended from the ship like the antennae of some giant space creature. The entire vessel pulsed with energy that made the nearby space shimmer and bend. On the bridge of the Stellar Sovereign, Admiral Kethmer stared at his tactical display in complete shock. His crystal body had stopped glowing, which happened only when he was extremely surprised or frightened. His officers were running scans over and over again, unable to believe their readings. Admiral, his tactical officer said, his voice shaking. The human vessel is 15 kilometers in length. Its mass is equivalent to a small moon. Energy readings are... Sir, the readings are off our charts. Kethmer had conquered worlds. He had faced fleets of enemy ships without fear. But he had never seen anything like the massive human vessel that now dominated the combat zone. The ship was larger than some space stations he had attacked. How did they build something that size without us knowing? Kethmer whispered. Our intelligence networks cover the entire galaxy. How did we miss this? On the Quantum Phantom, Commander Rixana was having similar problems. Her purple skin had turned almost white with shock. Her phase shift scanners, which could detect ships hidden in other dimensions, were showing energy patterns that made no sense. Commander, her chief engineer reported, the human ship's power output is greater than our entire fleet combined. Their whole composition is unlike anything in our databases. Our weapons may not be able to penetrate their armor. Zana's tactical mind was racing. She had built her career on being able to analyze enemy capabilities quickly and find weaknesses to exploit. But the human ship seemed to have no weaknesses that she could identify. What about their engines? Asked. Can we target their propulsion systems? Her engineer checked his readings again. Ma'am, they are not using any propulsion system we recognize. They seem to be manipulating space-time itself. I do not understand how their technology works. Ethereal Collective Fleet was having an even worse reaction. The Ninth Harmonic and its fellow consciousness beings were reeling from the psychic impact of the human ship. When they tried to scan the vessel with their mental powers, they encountered something that hurt to touch. The ship's artificial intelligence. The Ninth Harmonic broadcast to its fleet. It is not like the simple computers we expected. It is a true artificial consciousness, and it is more powerful than our combined mental abilities. This news sent shockwaves through the ethereal ships. The ethereal collective believed that consciousness was the highest form of existence in the universe. The idea that humans had created an artificial mind, more advanced than their own, was almost impossible for them to accept. Meanwhile, billions of beings across the galaxy were watching the encounter on their viewing screens. Confident jokes and laughter had stopped completely. Alien news reporters were struggling to find words to describe what they were seeing. On the Galactic News Network, Stell's 12 eyes were moving frantically as he tried to process the visual information. His voice, usually smooth and professional, was now high-pitched with excitement and confusion. Viewers, what we are witnessing appears to be impossible according to our understanding of galactic technology levels. The human vessel is larger than anything in recorded galactic history. It appears to be using technology that we do not recognize. Professor Zixandra was frantically checking her notes and calculations. All of her expert predictions about the battle were now completely wrong. Her golden wings were fluttering nervously as she tried to make sense of the situation. This changes everything, she said to the viewing audience. If the humans possess technology this advanced, then our entire understanding of their civilization is wrong. We may have seriously underestimated their capabilities. On the bridge of the USS Colossus, Captain Collins was calmly observing the alien fleets. His crew was working efficiently at their stations, showing no sign of stress or concern. They had trained for this moment and they were ready. Atlas Collins said to his ship's artificial intelligence, "Please provide a tactical assessment of the enemy fleets." Out. The AI's voice was calm and confident. "Captain, I have completed my analysis. The 3 enemy fleets possess a combined firepower, equivalent to approximately 15% of our defensive capabilities. Their weapons would require sustained bombardment for several hours to penetrate our outer hull plating." Lieutenant Commander Amy Price looked up from her station with surprise. 15%? Ah, ATLAS. Are you certain about that calculation? Affirmative, Commander Price. The enemy vessels are using energy-based weapons, phase shift technology, and psychic attacks. Our hull is designed to absorb energy weapons. Our sensors can track phase-shifted objects easily, and our mental shielding protects us from psychic assault. Captain Collins activated the ship's external communication system. When he spoke, his voice was broadcast to all 3 alien fleets and to the news networks covering the event.
Ow.
His tone was calm and professional, like a teacher addressing students. "This is Captain Frank Collins of the United Earth Defense Force vessel, USS Colossus. We have arrived for the requested military demonstration. Are the Galactic Council fleets prepared to begin the engagement?" The sound of a human voice asking if they were ready to fight sent another wave of shock through the alien fleets. The confidence in Collins' voice made it clear that he was not worried about facing 3 full battle fleets. Admiral Kethmer tried to respond, but his voice came out as a whisper. He cleared his throat and tried again. "Human vessel. This is Admiral Kethmer of the Hellion Empire. We request clarification of your ship's specifications. Our sensors must be malfunctioning." Collins' response was polite but firm. "Admiral, our ship specifications are classified information. However, I can tell you that the USS Colossus is a Titan-class warship designed specifically for deep space operations. We are prepared to demonstrate our capabilities as requested by the Galactic Council." Commander Rixana managed to find her voice. "Captain Collins, our intelligence reports indicated that human vessels were much smaller than what we are observing. Can you explain this discrepancy?" Collins allowed himself a small smile that the aliens could not see. "Commander, your intelligence was correct about our standard fleet vessels. However, the Galactic Council challenged us to demonstrate our military capabilities. The USS Colossus represents our most advanced military technology." The Ninth Harmonic's mental voice was shaky when it spoke. "Human Captain, we detect that your vessel possesses an artificial consciousness of unusual sophistication. How did your species develop such advanced artificial intelligence?" "We have been working on advanced AI research for several decades," Collins replied. "ATLAS is the result of that research. Now, shall we proceed with the demonstration, or do you have additional questions?" The 3 alien commanders looked at each other through their communication screens. They had expected to face a primitive human ship that they could easily defeat. Instead, they were facing a vessel that was larger and more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. Admiral Kethmer's pride as a warrior was battling with his common sense as a military commander. His ships were some of the finest in the galaxy, but the human vessel made them look like antiques. Still, he had accepted the challenge, and the entire galaxy was watching. "Captain Collins," Kethmer said slowly, "the Hellion Empire accepts your challenge. However, given the unexpected nature of your vessel, perhaps we should discuss terms of engagement first." Collins' voice remained calm and professional. "Admiral, the terms were set by the Galactic Council. 3 fleets against 1 human ship. Winner takes all. Are you prepared to proceed? Or would you prefer to withdraw your fleets and discuss alternative arrangements?" The word withdraw hit the alien commanders like a physical blow. To withdraw without fighting would be the ultimate humiliation. But to fight against a ship they did not understand could result in the destruction of their fleets. The entire galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The decision came from an unexpected source. Commander Rixana, the youngest of the 3 fleet commanders, was the first to speak. Her tactical training had taught her to recognize when a battle could not be won, and everything she was seeing told her that fighting the human ship would be suicide. "Captain Collins," she said, her voice carrying across all communication frequencies. "The Corvin Syndicate fleet requests permission to withdraw from the combat zone. We acknowledge that our intelligence about human capabilities was incomplete." The words hit the other 2 fleets like a shockwave. Commander Rixana was known throughout the galaxy as a fierce warrior who had never backed down from a fight. If she was withdrawing, then the situation was even worse than they thought. Admiral Kethmer felt his warrior pride crumble. The Hellion Empire had built its reputation on never retreating from battle. But, looking at the massive human ship floating before him, he realized that some battles were not meant to be fought. "The Hellion Empire fleet also requests withdrawal," he said quietly. "We were not prepared for this level of technological advancement." The Ninth Harmonic's mental voice was filled with something that other species might call fear. The ethereal collective concurs. "We withdraw our ships from the combat zone. The demonstration is complete." Captain Collins received these surrender messages with calm professionalism. He had not fired a single shot, but he had achieved complete victory simply by showing up. The three most powerful fleets in the galaxy were retreating without a fight. Withdrawal requests acknowledged, Collins replied. All fleets are free to leave the combat zone. Atlas, please ensure safe passage for the departing vessels. The artificial intelligence responded immediately. Affirmative, Captain. Creating safe corridors for fleet withdrawal. All weapon systems will remain in standby mode. As the three alien fleets began their retreat, news of what had happened spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The Galactic News Network was broadcasting continuous coverage of the event. In every species in known space was watching in amazement. On thousands of worlds, alien beings sat in stunned silence. The humans, who had been dismissed as primitive and weak, had just caused three major galactic powers to retreat without firing a shot. The implications of this event were staggering. In the depths of space, the ancient keeper was reviewing the historical records again. The being had seen this pattern before, many thousands of years ago. Young species that seemed weak, but possessed hidden strengths that changed the balance of galactic power. Yes, the keeper said to itself, this is how new ages begin. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. The same aliens who had laughed at humanity's request for membership were now panic-stricken. Ambassador Zethkar's crystal body was flickering with nervous energy as he tried to maintain order in the council chamber. The humans have requested an immediate response to their membership application, Zethkar announced. They're also claiming territorial rights to 47 star systems in their local region. The council chamber erupted in frightened voices. 47 star systems was a massive territory claim. Most new species were granted control of only their home system. With the possibility of expansion, after decades of good behavior, we have no choice, said the robot delegate from the Mechanical Collective. We must grant their requests immediately. If they have more ships like the one we just saw, they could conquer half the galaxy. Commander Vexala, who had been so confident about teaching humans a lesson, was now cowering behind her desk. Her tentacles were wrapped tightly around her body in a defensive posture. How many ships like that did they have? She whispered. They can build one. They can build more. We need to find out everything we can about human military capabilities. The Ethereal Collective's representative was pulsing with rapid flashes of light, indicating extreme agitation. Our psychic probes have detected similar energy signatures from 12 other locations throughout human space. The vessel we encountered was not unique. This news sent another wave of panic through the council. 12 more ships like the Colossus would make humanity one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The established powers would have to completely restructure their understanding of galactic politics. Back on the USS Colossus, Captain Collins was receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the main screen, and for the first time in years, the old military commander was smiling broadly. Outstanding work, Frank Morrison said. The Galactic Council has agreed to all our terms: full membership, territorial recognition, and a permanent seat on the Military Advisory Board. They've also invited us to participate in the Galactic Defense Initiative. What about the non-interference clause? Collins asked. The one that prevents new members from expanding their territory for 50 years? Morrison's smile grew even wider, completely waved. It seems our new galactic neighbors are very interested in maintaining friendly relations with us. They're particularly curious about our other defense projects. Lieutenant Commander Price looked confused. Other defense projects, sir? Collins turned to face his crew. People, what we've accomplished today is just the beginning. The USS Colossus is impressive, but it's only the first of its kind. Project Leviathan will produce ships that make the Colossus look small. The bridge crew exchanged glances of amazement. They had thought the Colossus was the ultimate achievement of human engineering. The idea that even larger and more powerful ships were being built was almost impossible to believe. How large are we talking about, Captain? Asked Tactical Officer Danny Brooks. Collins looked out at the stars through the bridge windows. Let's just say that the next generation of human warships will be measured in hundreds of kilometers, not dozens. Across the galaxy, alien intelligence services were desperately trying to gather information about human military capabilities. What they discovered terrified them. The humans had been preparing for galactic contact for decades, building not just one impossible warship, but an entire fleet of them. Spy satellites detected massive construction projects throughout human space. Shipyards the size of small moons were building vessels that defied every known principle of engineering. The humans were not just joining galactic civilization, they were preparing to dominate it on Earth. In the deepest vaults of the Titan project, engineers were putting the finishing touches on the next generation of human warships. These vessels would be so large that they could carry entire cities within their hulls. They would be armed with weapons that could crack planets and shielded by technology that made them nearly invulnerable. Admiral Morrison stood in the observation deck of the primary construction facility, watching as automated systems assembled the hull of humanity's next great warship. The USS Leviathan was already twice the size of the Colossus, and it was still growing. How long before the first Leviathan-class ship is ready? Morrison asked the chief engineer. 6 months, sir, came the reply. The USS Leviathan will be ready for trials. The USS Behemoth will follow 3 months later. By the end of the year, we'll have 5 Leviathan-class vessels operational. Morrison nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy had wanted to see what humanity was capable of. They had gotten their wish. But the demonstration was far from over. As news of humanity's new status spread throughout the galaxy, alien civilizations began to reconsider their relationship with the species from Earth. Trade agreements were quickly negotiated. Defense pacts were offered. Ancient territorial disputes were suddenly resolved in humanity's favor. The USS Colossus began its journey back to human space, leaving behind a galaxy that would never be the same. Humanity had announced its presence on the galactic stage, not with words or diplomacy, but with a demonstration of power so overwhelming that no one dared question their right to stand among the stars. In the years that followed, historians would mark this day as the beginning of the human age. The small blue planet in the Orion Arm had produced a species that would reshape the entire galaxy. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never again underestimate the children of Earth.